Ron Carter. Today is Friday in New York. I just came back from a tour, and one of the things I was asked the most often was, do I teach? And I like to think that every bass player is a teacher on the bandstand, but yes, I teach privately. And one of the things I've kind of have a routine to kind of let me know what the level of the student is when he comes to lessons. One thing I ask him to do is just play a simple scale, no slick solos, no bass lines. Just, can you play a scale? What's your scale? And so let's just do this. You're a student who's coming to my studio for a lesson, and I'm sitting with you, and I'm asking you, play a C major scale. And most players do this. And once they've gotten comfortable with the bass, I say, okay, now play it again. So my introduction to them as to how I play the bass is by playing this scale with my kind of fingering, which is I call it horizontal playing, when I'm playing as much across the bass as possible. I'm trying to avoid these long jumps, hoping I land correctly. Then we have the scales like this again. I'm interested in having them understand that all the notes they're going to need, they're right across the bass without having to do this. And once I kind of convinced them that's a real possibility, I have written out a small exercise for them, and I said, well, just kind of, I know you're sight reading, but just kind of play this for me. So here we go. So I said, well, that's clearly one way to play it, but if you kind of agree with my horizontal view and you want to experiment another way of fingering the bass, how about this example? And so this is my introduction to how I think about the bass, and this is an exercise I use to kind of introduce them to kind of playing across the bass like this. And someone always asks, well, can you play a melody like that? And of course you can. How about, oh man. Okay, I can't get started. I move one step and one step. It's all across the bass. And you can play it like this. But this is so much easier. I can't get started. But you can get started by trying this process out, which happens to be in my book. It's called A Comprehensive Method for the Bass, that's published by my company. This is probably page 40 of the book, which shows you how to play changes without having to do like this all night. And one of the examples in this book are 3 etudes that concern with just playing across the bass. I'm trying to make this a real big, good selling book. So please, make my dream come true. for the scale, you know. A lot of things you can do across the bass. Even a little lick like that works good. Okay, you know, this is a time where we generally ask questions, but let me just play you just a phrase playing across the bass with some little general melodies. Okay, the scale. Okay, how about some questions? I know this is kind of another way to start this process, and those of you who are interested in starting lessons with me, this is my opening exam of how it takes to make the bass work from the bass through my windows. Okay, there's a question coming up. Let me see if I can get the answer for you.
Martin is asking, would you ever recommend using a drone tone to aid intonation when practicing?
Probably not. A drone is one pitch. I'm more concerned with, can you make intervals with different open strings? If I'm playing a C, I have an open G, is it possible? Have open D is possible? Open E is possible? A drone limits you to that terrible quality of a drone, and I'm not sure that you can hear various intervals with just this drone banging away in your head. I'm not sure that's it. I wouldn't recommend that.
We have Oliver asking, are the strings you play on, are the strings you play hard to play arco on? Thank you.
Most strings are. This requires a little more effort than the normal gut string or the certain brand of wire strings. These are really loud arco strings, and I will admit it took me more than 20 minutes to figure out how to play them, but I found some nice rosin with an hour a day playing long tones. I found that solves my issue with playing the classical orchestras or a film score where they have 4 or 5 basses. Certainly the volume of my arco bass is as loud as theirs, and a nice personal quality.
Kadu is asking, how do you practice chord progressions such as 2-5-1? Thanks.
I don't specifically practice 2-5-1. What I'm more inclined to do is take a sheet of paper and write out what 2-5-1 means and where do they go. If you have an F chord to B flat chord, it's a 2-5. And it should go to E flat. But you can go like 2-5-1, 2-5, and go to this kind of 1, 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 and this kind of 1, and this kind of 1. So 2-5-1 doesn't mean a whole lot unless you know what the 1 is. So I would just sit down and you write out some options. 2-5-1 F going to E, 2-5-1 going to D, 2-5-1 going to E flat, and see what kind of choices you can find out wherever you are on the bass.
Danny's asking, what is something you hear missing in the way young bassists approach their role as accompanists?
I think most of them don't want to be an accompanist. They want to wait till the lights come on and get their feature number. I try to tell them all, you know, your features making that band leader, wherever they are, sound great. And I'm not sure you make them sound great playing solo to Indiana.
We have Jacob asking, can you talk a little bit about...
Sorry.
Can you talk a little bit about the upcoming of bass amps in jazz and how it's changed the playing and the music? Thank you.
I think this is one of the first times when amps and pickups were starting to really be developed, that the bass player he or she got a chance to really be a part of the sound of the band. Their sound was commensurate in volume to the trumpet player who puts his mute right in the bell of the microphone, or the pianist who has a lid as far as they can go with all those 88 notes banging away at you, and the drums with the cymbals that are unhampered with the sound, and the bass player somewhere in their neighborhood trying to play his brains out with no amp. I'm sorry that's kind of become it's still a mindset in today's basses. I think they're hurting their hands, they aren't getting the best sound of their bass, and I'm sure that the person who's sitting 45 rows back has not heard the bass, has not heard maybe 3 notes of their bass when they were tuning up and no one else played. I want them to hear all of my notes, and this amp and pickup allows that the possibility.
David is asking, I would very much like to know how you approach locking in with a drummer, or even different types, characters of drummers. I try very much to share the pulse with the drummers I play. Thank you in advance.
Well, one of my first concerns is what's the drum, how are his drums pitched? What's the tune of those drums? Tony Williams, one of the things he was really aware of was what was his E string, what was his bass drum tune to my lowest pitch at the time was E. And he'd make sure that his drums were tuned according to that note, according to my range of the instrument, G, D, A. And the second thing I try to help them understand is that the pitch of the cymbals, which affects all of my notes because it rings so long. And I try not to make them play so tepidly, so afraid of my commentary. I'd rather have them trust my sense of recommendation to say, check the picture of your drums. I did a rehearsal with Al Foster last week. He had a piccolo snare drum about this big and was metal. What a great sound. Just really bright, it was crisp. It maintained the pitch of the drum from the rehearsal beginning to its end, and Al Foster also loved the sound. Drummers look for help, but you got to know how to help them.
Chris is asking, what is the best bass amp for double bass?
Depends on your kind of bass you have, what kind of strings you have, what kind of pickup you have. My gear is made by Nick Epifani. They have amp and Nick cabinet. I found that this is the best amp gear, along with the David Gage pickup I use, that makes the bass sound like just a loud, good quality bass.
And last question for today, Jacques is asking any advice on how to play bass line in general, what to do or what not to do?
That's a simple question with a not so simple answer. I think the first thing you have to do is know what the tune is. You got to know those changes in order to make the changes have their own life. I like to think that when I walk into a room, I can hear what tune that is by the bass player's line. So if you want to make your line sound good and available to a listener, you got to know what that song changes are. Secondly, you have to know what's the form of that song. So you can build your line according to the first ending, or according to the second ending, or how to get to the bridge by building your line to make that bridge note be that note. I'm more concerned with picking the right note rather than playing as loud as everybody else. I want my note to be so important and my line so well constructed that they will kind of tamper their volume to find out, man, what's the next note going to be? I want that kind of dynamic, and not volume, that kind of dynamic musical control over the direction of the band. And with a nice choice of notes, man, you can kind of own the world. I keep telling guys, man, you wait around for your solo and you're missing the fun of being able to make the band do the music that you want. Give that a thought, and don't wait for the solo to come up. You may not get one all week. Doesn't mean your week has been lost because you didn't play your licks. I think that's kind of silly. Guys, this is still okay. So, for today, next week, or next month, we'll do another session, and we'll look at some other books of mine and see how much they will interest you. thank you for the Shapeshifter Lab and crew that helped me get this program together. They're great gear, great punctuality, great concept, and they make this stuff work. I'm just kind of hanging around, you know. Well, I'm standing and hanging around. It's a little bit different than just hanging around. Thanks, guys. Okay.